In today's video, I'm going to be talking about memories, thoughts. What are they? Where exactly are they located? What do we think we know about them? And what is the newest research telling us about it? In my previous video, I talked about magnetoencephalography and how these devices and this technology give us leads into what exactly is going on within our brain and outside of it. And one of the main counter arguments that I got from this video, the video was very well accepted. I had a lot of positive feedback from it, but some of the negative counter arguments were saying things like, oh, these are not thoughts, this is just information, this is just the magnetic fields and so on and so forth. What exactly are thoughts then? Do we really know what thoughts are? Do we really know what memories are? And this is what the research that I'm going to be looking at today is saying. Scientists for decades have thought about memories and have theorized about memories, and we have this written in textbooks, academic textbooks from the 90s, saying that we know how the memory recollection process works, and what they are saying is we don't really know what memories are. We have to redefine or start defining what exactly are these things. All we see are the brain synapses and this brain activity at the cellular level that is reacting when people look at things like brands of ketchup, colors, memories, emotions. When people are going through this cognitive process, they generate these connections within the brain, and these connections are being read and captured by this magnetoencephalogram. So these are thoughts. These are genuine thoughts that exist in the manner of information outside our brains, in the magnetic fields that all animals generate, that the earth itself generates. So I'm going to be looking at this in this video, and as always I'm going to keep going into the deep problem of qualia. What exactly are these mental images? Where exactly are we perceiving this? And as the research that I'm going to be reading today suggests, and all the data that I've been looking at in this channel, from reports from out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, psychedelic research, so on and so forth, ancient scriptures, literature, and so on, it all seems to point towards the same conclusion, which is that consciousness is not generated nor localized within the brain, but rather it exists outside as a manner of information, and our brains are some sort of a filter which creates our ego. And now what the research that I'm going to be looking at today is suggesting is that our brain does not store memories, rather we are made of memories. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. Alright, so I'm gonna be looking into this article. This might be a little bit complicated to understand, but what I'm gonna try to do in this video is put it as simply as possible, as simple as it can be, and I think this image pretty much sums up what this video is about. So, your brain doesn't contain memories, it is memories. Memories begin when your neurons respond to outside stimuli and compound to rewire your brain. So this is how memories begin, and memory begins when these stimuli, and there's a little bit of a metaphor going on in the article, how a newborn or a baby or a young child who sees their mother, they look at the photons emitting from the light, and we're talking about information, and then their prefrontal cortex, their visual cortex implements this information into their brain, into their conception, into their perception, into their qualia. This is where the problem of qualia, I'm going to be talking about this in this video. We're going to be talking about neurons, and we're going to talk about all these connections, and about the issue of qualia. Exactly where are these mental images? Nobody knows. We don't know. We have no idea where all of this is, and it ties into the whole concept of the literature of Akashic records. It's gonna be complicated. I'm gonna be looking into all these things and all these concepts. There's no other way to do it at the moment, because this is This is the best way to start integrating all of this. Otherwise, we get lost in the terms and in the confusion and so on and so forth. So basically, in that metaphor that I'm going to be going in the futures, this young child looks at the mother and then looks at the photons emitting from what constitutes the mother, and the brain perceives, has this perception, and attaches an emotional aspect to it. It layers emotions into it, and that's how the memory is created. So when this child grows into an adult, and the adult recalls the mother and this specific event, which is on a time frame. It travels through time, and I talked about this in different videos, travels through time into that memory, and the neural response in the brain creates all these synapses and all this cellular activity, and it reconnects everything, and it creates the memory. It recalls the memory. So this is how memories are stored. So if you go into a 90s textbook, it'll tell you that the memory are stored in the hypothalamus and maybe in the prefrontal cortex, and you find a lot of words of the like of scientists or experts believe, think, they have hypothesized that this is how it works, but nobody really knows how it works. Some new research, some new papers on this are looking into it differently, and as I've been talking about in this channel, it seems that we are talking about information, qubits of quantum information, which are within your brain and outside and everywhere. There's a large field of consciousness that we are starting to understand. So this is basically like an introduction on what this video is going to be about, and this is the importance of it. Why am I bringing memories? Why am I bringing all of this? In the previous video, when I looked into how magnetoencephalography is it's confirming the existence of the thoughts being outside of you, and this machine being able to perceive your brain activity without even touching you, meaning that the information, the synapses, the cellular activity is protruding outside your skull, outside your brain, into a larger, some sort of magnetic field which exists, nobody can see, but exists if the information can be picked up. And you know, the implication is that whatever is going on in your brain, it goes outside your brain as well. It's everywhere. It's all connected. Where it's all connected, that's what the literature, what the research suggests, and so on and so forth. So one of the main counter arguments that I got from that video was that, oh, this does not mean it can, you know, perceive your thoughts, or what is a thought even? And this is what I was asking. What is a thought even? We don't know. It's part of the qualia. So this research that they've been doing with magnetoencephalography is, you know, they mention an example where the, you know, people who are looking into a screen and they're looking at brands of ketchup, and there's a lot of brain activity that this magnetoencephalography is capturing. So what are they looking at? They're looking at colors, they're looking at letters, they're looking at brands, as I said, perhaps some emotions from their childhood, from having food with ketchup, are surrounded by their family, and they were happy in that time, and they create all these memories. What are these memories? There are thoughts. So people were saying, oh, we are not looking at thoughts through magnetoencephalography. We are looking at you know, brain activity. What is brain activity? What are thoughts? What are memories? What is the distinction in all of this? We are talking about information. I know this might be a little bit complicated, but it's gonna be much more simple in a little bit. The main thing that I want to pose in this introduction is we are talking about information and how this information could be connected to something larger outside of us, and this allows us to create ideas like a quantum field of consciousness, a field of consciousness, perhaps what people are calling souls or auras or information, and it ties to that big theory, the orchestrated objective reduction theory from Penrose and Hameroff, saying that indeed we capture all this information in the cells within our brain, and this quantum information leaks at the time of death, which is what all of the research is pointing towards to. Alright, I'm gonna be repeating this. So this video is gonna be going on ongoing research, because yes, I'm still getting this argument, and I've noticed that usually this argument comes from people who are from the latter generation, from I mean, the earlier generation, baby boomers and so on, who are not so acquainted with how blogs work, how this social media works, and so on and so forth. I am reading this article in Wired. I've done these articles previously in Wired because I find it a little bit easier to navigate than looking at a research study on a PDF, a blank research. Like, as I said, this image represents everything that I'm going to be talking in this video. It's easier to read, it's creative, and so on and so forth. But these in this playlist ongoing research, I'm always going to be basing myself on articles that contain a published research on a scientific journal. So if you want to go into the actual research right here, it was posted on Neuron in 2017. Memory takes time. It talks about how these time frames, you start talking about time, and you start talking about how time is not real according to some of the postulates by Einstein and some modern scientists who are saying time is just an illusion, it's just a creation, and the brain does this. So what is this? You can see the whole thing here. It's an essay, and it's some reconsideration by experts, by neuroscientists on this memory recollection and the memory process. But I'm just going to read some of the main conclusions. More generally, we propose the ability to detect and respond to temporally structured information underlies the nervous system's capacity to encode and store a memory at molecular, cellular, synaptic, and circuit levels. What does this exactly mean? It means that it's not that, like as I said, if you go to a 90s book, and a lot of people think that the final truth about reality is written in these textbooks from the 90s, and this is not the case. You go to a 90s book, they're gonna say yes. So you retrieve the memories from the hypothalamus, and then the encoding, storing, and recalling, and so on and so forth. And what they're saying is way more complex than this. It's way more complex than this. And I'm going to be going into it. So what does this mean as well? It gives lead to the Orcoar theory, which suggests that these memories, that everything that constitutes the ego, being a person, all these memories, all this information, is at the quantum state in the microtubules. And it's interesting that this advertisement is coming here. The tubulin experts, the microtubules within your brain contain this quantum information, which at the moment of death is released. According to the Orcoar theory, I think I've already talked about it and I haven't linked it. I always link this video because it's the most important. I'm going to link it somewhere on the screen. The OR theory by Penrose and Hameroff, a scientific theory of the soul. I'm gonna link it somewhere, and all the links, if I run out of links, are gonna be linked below in the description of this video. Some other things that I want to go, I'm not gonna read the whole study. This is why I use these articles, which are easier to take on, but I'm gonna read a couple of things that I found quite interesting right here. Well, synaptic plasticity has been analyzed in neuroscience literature for decades. Its direct empirical connection to memory is often more in the realm of metaphor rather than mechanism, largely because the term memory can have many meanings in a wide range of contexts. This is 100% something that I find fascinating about how we conceive our reality. It's about pummeling that scientific dogma. When you look into these books and they say, oh yeah, the way that you the way that we access memories is by going into our brain. How exactly? Where did you get the information from? Of course, there were some studies, and it was from a man who had their hypothalamus removed from an injury, and then he couldn't create memories, and now they conclude that this is where the memories are located, and so on and so forth. Some other studies, but we really don't even know exactly what a memory is. And what it's saying here is used for decades, but it can have many meanings. We don't know. Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't really know. This association of memory input and memory output in turn necessitates a concept of a memory store, an idea that historically has been central to memory research. And they are saying maybe it's more complex than just accessing and storing. What they are saying is that it's a whole thing. We are the memories. The memories are the synapses themselves. The whole, you cannot have a memory on its own. It's the whole system. When you access a memory, your whole at the cellular and the neural level, everything is being connected again. You're recreating that time frame, and they talk about these time frames and so on and so forth. All right, just to finish with this, because I'm not, as I said, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. A broader view that memory cannot be viewed separately from the system that encodes it. The memorizer, no single object, process, or state represents a memory. No object, process. No, it's not like you access a memory. We don't know what a memory is. No store can be isolated as a particular substructure within the complete biological system that retains external information. It's the whole thing. This is why the article is named "Your Brain Does Not Contain Memories." It does not store memories. It is memories. It is all of this information. So let's go into it. Alright, so the article talks about a memory, a big game, we fall in love, so on and so forth. When you reconstruct this memory, you remember the smells, the colors, the funny things some other person said, and the way it made you feel, the emotion attached to it, the science said. Your brain's ability to collect, connect, and create mosaics from these milliseconds long impressions is the basis of every memory. By extension, is the basis of you. This isn't just metaphysical poetics. This is not woo. This is not woo, as some people call it. This is every sensory experience triggers changes in the molecules of your neurons, reshaping the way they connect to one another. The synapses within the brain, this brain activity that we see through the experiences. That means your brain is literally made of memories. You think about thought process. I mentioned that I talked about this thought process before, and I did it in a video that was talking about the process of quote-unquote praying in ancient scriptures. I'm not bringing that anymore because a lot of people are not understanding what I'm talking about when I was making those videos. So I'm gonna leave that as part of what I've been writing. I'm gonna try to differentiate when I'm talking when it comes to research and when I'm talking about ancient scriptures and ancient philosophies, but it is there. I might link it somewhere below if somebody is interested. It's about the process of prayer in ancient scriptures and how they say ask and you shall receive whatever you may want. Think about going to the kingdom and ask for whatever you may want, and it shall be added onto you, and so on and so forth. I broke down the thought process when it comes to thinking. When you think, you have a mental image in your head, but what is thinking? You create sensory perception of that image, the color of the thing that you want, the color of and it's based on your past as well, and whatever your previous experiences are. When you think about a future memory, you're using that information from the past. So whatever that memory used to be, you create the same feelings. You create the synapses in your brain. It's like you are traveling through time. When you look at a past memory and you're feeling you're having the feelings in real time from a previous memory, because your brain does not recognize what is past, what is today, and what is future. It just goes back and forward. And what they're saying here is defining memory is about as difficult as defining time. When I was making this video, before I found this article and I found it interesting to go into this research, I had been looking into some of the research. So what people are saying, that what Einstein said, that there is no time. Time is an illusion. There's no past, there's no future. Everything is an illusion, and everything is happening at the same time. That is a very hard idea to grasp, but that seems to be what's going on. But how can we define memories? Is because our brain, at the same time, they're saying here it's about time. So memory exists because your brain's molecule cells and synapses can tell time. Can they really? Not really. They cannot, because when you think about something, you're bringing it into the present. They cannot tell time. You're bringing whatever experience you had, all the smells, all the colors, and the funny thing that the person said, and you're bringing it to the present time, to the now. And you are having these emotions and these feelings. When someone made you angry at work and you're thinking over it, sometimes for weeks, and you relive the memory and you're feeling angry just because you're thinking about it, You're bringing it to the now, and the synapses in your brain, the connections are done, and then you add on to it things that didn't really happen. And this is a good tool for when something made you mad. A lot of people say, think about what you would have wanted to happen instead. Think about this memory with a positive shift to it, or what you would have liked that situation to be instead, so you can feel better. And you tie into the ideas of think about the future, think about the thing that you want, and create a manifestation board or whatsoever. And you talk about the law of attraction and all these wood, what these people call it, but we're talking about the thought process and the fact that perhaps this information might be more than what we think it is, and it's not only intuition, and it's not only just ideas. It might have more to do with the reality that we perceive than what we might think. And then you start tying the simulation theories onto it, and it all becomes a little bit more complicated. But I'm gonna be going fully into the whole simulation ideas, which I think is a wrong way to perceive it, the concept of a simulation. I think virtual reality would be a more proper idea to conceive what reality might be, the ultimate reality might actually be. But a lot of people are understanding it as the simulation theory or concept. Alright, goes on to say a typical memory is really just a reactivation of connections between different parts of your brain that were active at some previous time. It's exactly what I'm saying. The synapses, it could say, it says memory exists because your brain can't tell time. Can it really? Not really. Your brain is creating everything at the same time. Even if it's based on a previous memory, or if it's based on the future, when you are thinking about the future or the past, you are bringing whatever it is in the present time, and you're having the emotions attached to it. And what happens within your brain is that you're not recollecting from the hypothalamus or something. You are creating synapses. You are creating activity at a cellular level. That's what's happening. And they talk about this reactivation of connections. I'm saying this, and I know a lot of people might think, okay, this guy is just going crazy, he's just going all over the place. But I know that some people understand what the implication is with all of this. And I'm going to be building into it in the future. Okay, so the article goes on to provide an example with sea slugs. So if you pinch a sea slug on its gills, it will retract them faster the next time your cruel little fingers come close. Researchers found synapse connections that strengthen when the sea slug learns to suck in its gills and molecules that cause this change. Okay, so how does this connect to humans? And what makes those connections and networks is the fact that those specific connections, those synapses, can be adjusted with stronger or weaker signals. So every experience, every pinch to the gills has the potential to reroute the relative strengths of all those neuronal connections. So yeah, if you pinch a sea slug or a cat or whatever, it's going to have a reaction, and it's going to create a process in the brain. So next time you do it, the reaction is going to be faster. This is something very basic. So what Kokoshkin says, which is the author of this research, that it's a Neuron, this scientific journal, as I said, you can go through it. He says, when you dig into molecules and the states of ion channels, enzymes, transcription programs, cells, synapses, and the whole networks of neurons, you come to realize that there is no one place in the brain where memories are stored. It's an important thing to take of all of this. So while the books in the 90s said that, it's on the hypothalamus, and the prefrontal cortex, and then you go into it, you retrieve the memory, whatever that is, because we don't know the qualia, we don't know where these mental images really are, we don't know how the individual being perceives these smells, these colors, these emotions. We don't really, they even say that there are regions in the brain which create the emotions. We don't know this. We do not know this. And this is what these scientists are saying. You come to realize that there is no place in the brain where memories are stored. What they are seeing is that these synapses are connecting with every action. And this is something basic relating to animals. If you hurt an animal, the animal is going to create a memory. But when you think about humans and more complex emotions, more complex experiences, it's the same thing. They are creating these synapses, this brain activity. We are this brain activity. Our experiences are this brain activity. What we see on the the magnetoencephalography, in the EEG, MRI, what we see is the brain acting and thinking and doing things, doing processes, but this is our consciousness. So, as I said, I'm gonna repeat it because I know that I've lost quite a few people, maybe. Some people remain here, people who are interested, people who are understanding what I'm trying to say here, is that I'm building on this theory of the brain filter theory. I made a video from Peter Fenwick, a neuropsychiatrist who has been studying near-death experiences and neuropsychiatry for 50 years, and he's got a theory of the cosmic consciousness. I'm gonna link it somewhere on the screen. It just says that consciousness is a property of the universe. This is an entire field of information, and our ego, our brains filter this information into our own perceptions. And how does it do this? Through these synapses, through this brain activity. It creates our very specific experiences, and this leads into talking about the soul and talking about all these things. But right now it's not the point of the video, but I want to remark that this is where all of this research is leading to. This is why I'm mentioning it. While editing this video, I had to cut it right here because what this article goes on to say is really important, and I thought it deserves its own video. I go on the tangent of what it is implied by this research, by all the research that I've been pointing towards to. As I said, we're talking about the quantum field of consciousness. We're talking about information in a database. As I said, you can call it quantum, you can call it molecular information, you can call it different things. At the end of the day, it's information, and people could call it energy. So we start juggling a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas, which can get a little bit complicated. So in this first video, I wanted to point out what exactly our thoughts, what exactly our memories, and how we don't really know about this. And we have this new research pointing towards that. So this allows us to think about these memories and these thoughts. And if they are not stored somewhere in the brain, then where are they? Then what are they? And by implication, what are we? So in the next video, I'm going to be looking at this article again, which goes on forward to say that even bacteria has memory, and bacteria does not possess a nervous system, it does not possess a brain. So how can bacteria have memory? And I go into some other examples which are really interesting. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is that we're living in some sort of an information matrix, and our thoughts, our ideas, our memories are this information. It seems that all is made of this information, and now I use the word matrix, and I can even use the word simulation as I've used it before. But I have a lot of issues with these specific words because we can get lost in the connotations. So what I'm going to be doing in the next video is going a little bit further into this, and I'm going to be delving into these ideas of the simulation, of the matrix, and so on and so forth as I continue with this research, because at the end of the day, all research is pointing towards this possibility. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. Our Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it will help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.